Welcome back to Super Doc Stories. I'm your host, Dr. Marissa Caudill, and it's my real honor and pleasure today to be talking with Dr. Vikram Raya. He is the founder of Limitless MD and owner of Viking Capital. Welcome, Vikram.
Thanks, Marissa. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be able to talk with you as well. So, everyone, you should know Vikram has been coaching Mona and I with developing SuperDoc Tech this year, and it's been an amazing experience. So, I want to just put in a plug for anyone who's looking for coaching to consider working with Limitless MD. It's been great, just overall wonderful. So, thank you for that. And we were talking about the fact that SuperDoc Stories is really meant to be helpful for people who are still in their W-2 jobs as physicians and maybe thinking about or starting to dabble in other side ventures, whether that's real estate or clinical dabblings, like starting your own practice, having some kind of med spa, side hustle, whatever it might be. And we were discussing, when did that start for you? So could you tell me a little bit about your story?
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get started, I think you're doing a great service to the physician population. I mean, Super Doc Stories, highlighting doctors who are starting to think outside the box, right? I think it gives people the permission to believe and to dream that they can do it
Mm-hmm.
themselves. And I think there's a new breed of doctors out there, Marissa. I think you'd have to agree with me. I mean, there was these '90s doctors who they locked in, they did their profession for 30, 40 years. They made a good amount of money because they were at the peak of the reimbursement cycle, and
Yep.
that was their model of the world. And now the doctors that are coming in, I mean, we're dealing with AI and documentation issues and ownership and private equity owning things. And, now we're exploring telemedicine locums and, we have to learn about marketing and cash based and hybrid practices. I mean, what a new world. So, I'm
Totally.
happy to share my experience, but I'd like to start with some of that.
Yeah, so you're totally speaking my like lovely. I don't know, this is what I love to talk about. It's my soapbox, right? So we talk about this all the time. So I finished undergrad in 1999. So I started as a med student right around the year 2000, Y2K. And you're absolutely right. Working as a med student at the University of Connecticut, which was a public institution designed to bring the next generation of primary care doctors, I worked for several years in a longitudinal practice model with some community no, mental health primary care docs. And they were absolutely what you were talking about, that golden age of medicine where you could just hang your shingle and take insurance and make a great living. They were happy. They were loving it. They had like their own vineyard and they would stomp the wine and
Yeah.
they were living a very good life. And over those next 15, 20 years, things changed so much. So I think now it's only now that I actually realize what an exciting time it's actually been to be a physician. Um, I think though there's still many physicians, like probably hundreds of thousands, who feel that they missed that golden age of medicine and are kind of lamenting that, like, why isn't it as good for me as it was for my mentors? But I think you're absolutely right. I find that we are actually at this super exciting new time in medicine. Things definitely are shifting. The pendulum is swaying. But at a conference recently this year, there was a slide and it showed that like in the early 80s, only like 20% of physicians were in employed positions. And now it's close to 80%, right? So there's been this huge
Wow.
shift to employed physicians over the last 40 years. And it's going the other direction now, right? Like the pendulum is shifting the other way, which is what we want to talk about because it can only be sustainable for so long. Once things shifted to this for profit, publicly traded insurance companies, like every dime that can be squeezed will be squeezed, and the employed physicians feel that. So I think we both know people who are in those positions. I myself was one. I don't know how long ago you yourself were one, or if you ever were
Yeah.
one, but like these
Yeah.
employed W-2 jobs are harder and harder because every possible dollar that can be squeezed from a physician patient relationship is trying to be squeezed to pay shareholders, right? And that just
Yeah.
isn't sustainable.
And I think, and I'll quickly tell my background, but I want to really get into what you just said. I think about physicians becoming from a specialist to a commodity, but let me go back to my
Hmm.
background. So I'm a cardiologist. I studied traditional cardiology. Reason was I had so many family members who had heart attacks, like 6 or 7 people on my dad's side that it was
Wow.
painful. So pain drove me to go from internal medicine to cardiology. And then I was like, okay, it's a good living, noble profession. I'm helping people. Cool. Um, when I got in there, it was interesting, but I already saw the writing on the wall. Okay, 225K starting salary, probably not going to go much beyond that in the model I was in Northern Virginia, Washington D.C., very expensive area where a lot of competition, a lot of cardiologists. And so, all right, started exploring a little bit of single family homes. After a while, I got into multifamily. Um, and then I started learning. I thought, hey, can I be more of an entrepreneur or what we call an intrapreneur? And so this
Mhm.
is something, if you're a W 2 guys, pay attention to this part of the podcast right now. So if you're a doctor and you work in a practice, there's an opportunity to be an intrapreneur. And that's what I tried to be at the first. I tried to uh, create different relationships for my practice where we were a private practice cardiology group, about 6 or 7 guys together. And I said, hey, let me go get that hospital and bring it under our purview. Let me launch a heart failure clinic. Let me do a pulmonary hypertension clinic. We've never done those. Let me create a relationship with the hospital to do some kind of, chest pain strategy. And then I was like, okay, let's do more wellness. And so I thought, hey, I did something called Cooking with the Cardiologist, which was like a 2-hour seminar for the whole community in our region where I did a live cooking demonstration with my wife on
Awesome.
stage, right? The goal was to provide awareness of what healthy cooking looks like. And so this gave a lot of notoriety to my group. I created like these little reversing heart disease packets that I would hand out, and it was all good and fine. But regardless of what I was doing, I was ramping up against an autonomy ceiling and
Mhm.
a income ceiling and a, hey, why don't you just put your head down and go see more patients ceiling. So
Mhm.
then I was like, all right, well, I need to buy my freedom. So that's why I really drove into real estate, started a company with a buddy of mine who's also a doctor. We formed Viking Capital. A lot of trial and error, but ended up getting a deal, and that deal ended up giving us 7 figures to where I said, okay, I feel comfortable exiting slowly. So I went from 5 days a week as a cardiologist to 4 days to 3 days. And my plan was, hey, I'm going to start my own function. And I'm crazy. I do things on the side. So I got trained in functional medicine. I got certified in functional medicine. I learned all of that. So I was like, hey, let me start a cash based functional medicine cardiology clinic to help people the way I want to help. I want to go. It's nice to help people who, they have disease and I put a stent or stress test or echo or put them on a beta blocker. But what if I caught them 5 years earlier, 10 years earlier?
Mhm.
That's what the whole premise of the clinic was. And so I had to learn how to do that. So I had to get help and support on the business side of medicine and then the marketing side of medicine and then actually performing functional medicine. And so what an education I had out of all these things. And so I got the real estate education, I got this business education, I got the marketing education, I got the functional medicine education. So what I've found is I was probably early to the game. This was in 2004. I'm sorry, uh 2008. What was it? No. When did I start? 2000 sorry, 2011 is when I graduated. So from 2011 to 2020, I was just creating my own little university, a university an MD university to learn medicine 2.0, I guess. And I
Uh-huh.
learned all these skill sets, and and I didn't know where those all going to lead. It's like what Steve Jobs says. He goes, "You can't connect the dots unless you look back, and see where
Yeah.
the pattern was." And so, really, what I was doing is I was learning to be an entrepreneur. I was learning to be a doctorpreneur. I was learning to create autonomy, to create businesses, to learn how to scale, and it was just almost my own business school.
Uh-huh.
And I actually thought about going to MBA school, but I realized that you don't need to be you don't need an MBA to start a business, but you do need a MD to be a doctor. And so I was like, I'd rather choose being a doctor. And so I never ended up deciding to go to the MBA school. So that's my background. And then during the pandemic, I had an opportunity to start working with doctors who were really trying to figure things out. Their clinics were shut down. Their business was not functioning well. They were scared. They're worried. There was a whole dislocation and disruption. And so during dislocation and disruption and fear and emotion is when people need help. And our coaching industry sort of was born then. That's when we created Limitless MD. So that's the
Okay.
background. But
Nice.
since that time, I've coached about probably actively coached about 300 doctors, unofficially probably coached about 500 or 600 doctors in all these different categories. And I think doctors are innovative, they're brilliant, they're hardworking, they have a empathy that no one can match. And given the right environment and the conditions, they will thrive. And so I want to applaud the people listening to your podcast because they're what I call the new breed of physicians. They're the physicians who are learning to be renaissance physicians. They're balancing their family. They
Hmm.
probably they have older parents that they're having to figure out what to do with. Then they either are in a clinic that they are employed or they're owning their own clinic, and yet they want to do something different, perhaps a side hustle, perhaps investing, perhaps real estate, perhaps, uh, I've had some people who want to start a daycare or they start a bar or they own a franchise or they
Yeah,
get
yeah.
into options trading or day trading or it's amazing, and I think what people are realizing is I don't have to just be a doctor, and it's this expansive identity which is so beautiful. And I mean, you and Mona are exhibiting it right now, but it's yes, we can do all these things and be good at them and enjoy them. And then the other concept is doctor as a CEO. You're your own person and you have all these different things, but you're is it's and that's what I think if you remember it during our time together at the retreat, we just hosted a retreat in Orlando. It was amazing. Marissa was there and a lot of other amazing doctors were there. And
It was great.
I was discussing this concept of the portfolio doctor, where a doctor really
Yes.
has a portfolio of things they do. They do their medicine, they do some investing, they do their passion projects or they're into charitable work or medical missions. It's amazing the portfolio of what they can do. And as a composite, that's who they are, not, hey, I'm just an ENT doctor.
I love that so much. And I actually was inspired after the retreat. I don't know if you saw on my Facebook page, I re-updated my background to say like something about my full portfolio of who I am, right? Like I'm not just Marissa Caudill, child psychiatrist, MD, PhD. I'm also a wife and a mom and a CEO and a real estate investor and a spiritual person, like so
Yes.
I I think that was so good for me to hear. And I think it's such an important shift compared to what got us successful, right? Like most physicians became successful because they put the blinders on and they just went for it and they're going to get through med school, through fellowship, to the best program, whatever it is. And so your identity becomes more narrowed rather than more broad over time. But what you were just talking about of spending years of your life after you finished your training on your own to really just kind of expand your knowledge base and find your people. I think that's the common thread. We were talking about patterns that you've noticed. I wanted to share, I'm going to share this image if I can figure out how to do it. Um, okay. Are you seeing this little
Oh,
emotional
yeah.
cycle of
Very,
change? Okay.
very cool. Yeah.
So there's these two psychologists in the 70s named Kelly and Connor, and they came up with this cycle of change model, which I love to talk about with our members at SuperDoc Tech because this is so familiar, I'm sure to you as well. Have you seen it before?
A version of it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, like when you start something new, you're initially in that phase of like uninformed optimism. So maybe this was you when you decided to get into real estate, right? Like it's exciting, it's something new, like it's fun to learn new things. But very quickly, you go from that positive emotional state to an informed pessimism where you're all of a sudden realizing like, oh, this is actually going to be pretty hard and there's all these other things I didn't know that I would have to do to make it happen, etc. And so this shift feels bad, it doesn't feel good. And if you aren't quickly found, like if you don't quickly find your people and find other people who've made it through, and this is like the power of coaching and the groups like Limitless, like if you don't quickly find people to make it through this valley of despair, which can last years, like there's some ups and downs in here, but it can last a long time, then what you'll usually do is just pick up some new idea, right? You never see it all the way through. And so what I think coaching has really helped me with so much is recognizing that when you get to this low point, it's not a sign that you're doing anything wrong. It's just a part of the process. And then when you get to informed pessimism, or sorry, optimism, wrong reading here, informed optimism, that's when you start to feel like, oh, these things are actually working and I'm heading in the right direction. But it's still a long way from that to the full success and fulfillment. And when you get here, you just do it all over again. And what I have found is that with each iteration, you go through the stages faster and with less emotional, you know, hemming and hawing and feeling frustrated and feeling tired because you know it's normal at each phase. So I kind of wanted to talk about that with you and having coached 300 doctors, you're in such a prime position to share with our listeners like what are the patterns that you see here? Like where do people get stuck? What makes them successful from the informed pessimism to the informed optimism phase, which I think is the most crucial phase? Like what are the key components there?
Wow, what a great chart. So for those of you guys who are listening only and not watching us, it's really this sort of almost a V or a U shape where you start at stage one, uninformed optimism, then you dip down into informed pessimism. You're like, oh crap, and then you hit this bottom valley of despair, and you come out of the U up into informed optimism. You're like slowly coming out of it, and then finally you're at success and fulfillment, which is stage five. So that's what Marissa's talking about, and here's the secret, guys. Most people cycle through one, two, and three, like she was mentioning, and that's why they never succeed. And what they say is, oh, I tried real estate. It didn't work for me. Oh, I tried crypto trading. It didn't work for me. Oh, I tried starting my clinic and someone stole from me. And it's not that it didn't work for them. They just they gave up at the valley of despair. And it's it's tough. I get it. Like I'm going through, it doesn't matter how many times, if you've been in a business long enough, you're going to go through these stages. And it's just because every level has its own devil. I'll say that again. Every level has its own devil. And so as you're progressing up, it's never a straight line. There's no straight lines in nature. It's like you make some progress, then you plateau and it's plateauing because you're processing, you're integrating, you're consolidating, you're letting go of the team. You remember the team that gets you here is not the team that gets you there. So perhaps that team members being removed. You're getting the new team member. You're getting some new skill sets of knowledge, and then boom, you're shooting up again. And so, uh, what I found is I've learned to have more informed. I, I get my pessimism a lot earlier and know what I'm getting myself into now, and
Mm,
I also don't carry so much emotional residue with me when things don't
mm,
go right, which I know they don't, and so I don't make things good or bad anymore. I'm learning to have some level of detachment, which is hard, but that's what the meditation of the years, talking to different mentors, going doing some of the inner work is helpful. So I don't let it's not good or bad. It just is. And then it's
yeah.
like, all right, what do I need to get to my goals? Is that really my goal? And I always challenge my goals. Like one of the things we've talked about is means goals and ends goals, right? Ends goals are what we really want. Oh, I want to live in Europe with my wife 3 months out of the year, and I want to have a free clinic in the inner city of Chicago. That's what I really want. Okay. Versus, hey, I want to earn $400,000 a year and max up my 401k. That's cool. That's a nice goal, but that could be more of a means goal. It's not really what you really, really, really want. A lot of times, the difference because it's like I want this goal so that, and there's like something else that you're
Mhm,
really wanting. So back to what I was saying. I think, guys, what coaching has helped me with, what mindset work has helped me with, and with a lot of the physicians is when you hit these struggles, it helps you overcome them. It also gives you your blind spots. A lot of times we don't know what we don't know, and so these
mhm,
blind spots are helpful for someone to point them out, and then everyone hears about the 10,000-hour rule, Marissa, but the interesting thing is it doesn't have to be your 10,000 hours. And that's how you shortcut the process. So, yes, you will make your own mistakes. I promise you, doctors, if you're listening to the podcast, we're never going to rob you of some mistakes. You will make some of your own mistakes. But you don't need to make my mistakes. You don't need to make Marissa's mistakes or whoever else you follow or listen to or mentor with. We've already made them. So, might as well take advantage of that and then leapfrog us and then go do what you need to do.
oh, I can relate to that so much. So, like, with real estate, that's a great example. We started investing in real estate during the pandemic, and the first two investments I made were passive syndication investments that both went completely belly up. And I lost like six figures. And I think it would have been very easy to just say, if I'd only done that, like, well, real estate is not for me. Right. But because I had already kept going, I mean, now we've made, I don't know how many more passive investments and we own multiple properties too. Like, I know that overall it's been a positive thing for us to have learned this and gotten into it. And I know that it's only still the beginning, right? Like I've only been a real estate investor for less than 5 years. And so if I have another 40 or 50 years of life in me, it's undoubtedly going to be better for us financially and just personally to have learned this and done it than it would be to say, oh, that's not for me. And so I think that the thing that you just mentioned, what did you say? You said it so well. I'll have to rewind and listen to what it said. But basically, I was thinking before we got on, like, what's the advice you have for people? Because I think emotion regulation is the biggest shift that I've had that's helped me to move forward. I don't know if you feel the same, but it sounds like you do. Because, like, as you go through these cycles of change, as you grow, both personally and professionally and financially, the inevitable up and down cycles that come get bigger, right? So like if I had a six-figure loss in 2023, I might have a seven-figure loss in 2033. Like, how do I not react bigger as the problems get bigger, right? Because
Yeah.
the growth, you know what I'm saying? Like the growth gets
Yeah,
better, but
yeah,
the problems also get bigger. So what's your
yeah.
advice there? Like what's worked for you? Because obviously you're doing a lot of work on that.
As you get to your limits expand, right? So what's happening is, um, I think you're able to take on a lot more. So
Hmm.
and you have, yes, like if all you did was invest in the stock market in 1929, you'd be like, "Oh my god, that's the worst market ever." But if you invest in 1930 after the crash, you made like a ton load of money. And so same thing, like, look, there everything is in cycles. Business is
Hmm.
in cycles, economics in cycles. Um, our life is sort of in cycles, like from 20 to 30, we're just learning and working hard in medical school, residency, uh, 30s, maybe to the 40s, we first job, getting married, kids, right? And there's that cycle of growth. And then it's 40s to 50s and 50s to 60s. I really think those are the two decades where physicians come into who they are, come into the truth, learn to own their authentic selves, and can really create that generational wealth. They can be the person in the family tree that completely changes the family tree forever, which I think anyone who's listening to the podcast is probably you have that capability. And
Hmm.
they can really create that wealth fortress, but they can also have that impact fortress, and they can also have the meaning fortress. Like they're living a meaningful life, their authentic life. And so that's why I encourage people during their 40s and 50s to really figure it out, and don't compromise. This is
Yeah.
your life. You only have one shot. That there may be some reincarnation involved, but for at least for now, 40 to 50, you got it's your shot. So don't compromise, and go all out. And the way to think about this, and this, Tony Robbins talks about this. When you're 85 years old or 90 years old, or now probably 120 is the new 90, you're sitting in your rocking chair, you're leaning back and forth, and you're like, hey, uh, would I regret this, if I didn't do this? So
I think that's a great way to end it. And I think you're absolutely right. I am 48. I don't know. I think we're roughly the same age.
yeah,
But
I'm right there with you.
basically, I think what I've been realizing as I approach 50 is that my whole life up until now was like to get to this point. And now here I am in midlife realizing, like, well, darn, I could have like another what, 30, 50, 60 years on the other side of this. So what does that mean? Like that's a lot of years. This is something my husband and I have been talking about, and it's really been the shift for me to take that risk, around 2020, 2021, and decide to do something different because you can always go back. You're a physician. No one can take that away from you. You can always go back to working in a clinic and getting the steady paycheck. But when you think about what is the mark you really want to leave, what is going to feel like you truly lived the life that you had in you when you're 90 sitting in the rocking chair or 100 sitting in the rocking chair. Like, I don't want to look back and feel like I played it too safe. And I'm very grateful for you and for all the people in your community to help me see like that there is, more to life out there, and it just keeps getting better. That's the wonderful thing. I think
Yeah.
whoever's listening, just don't be afraid to take a leap of faith, to trust that it's going to work out, because we're such a full portfolio type of person. Anyone who's a physician already has a wonderful brain, a wonderful heart, and a wonderful spirit. So like there's really nothing that you can't do. When you were talking about being an entrepreneur, you were just talking about bringing more value to the place you were working, right? And anyone can do that. And it's the same skill set that you would bring to your own business if you decide to start it. So I think that's beautiful.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right. Well,
you.
thank you so much for talking with me. And this episode will go up sometime soon, but really appreciate you coming to talk with us, Vikram. And I'll make sure that we include the link there for anyone who listens who wants to learn more about Limitless so that they can reach out to your team as well.
Great, guys. So it's thelimitlessmd.com if you guys are interested to learn more about our company, or vikramraya.com. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Take care.